Hello everybody, I'm Krasi Attasio, I'm sidereal astrologer, and this is my Lunarium. So this is the lunar month, which we look at from the point of view of the ancient Babylonian astrologer, which would say that we follow up the path of the moon. You know how fast is the moon? Every day on her path, the moon meets planets, fixed stars, and this way, this produces events for us on mundane level and also on personal level. So we actually start from the first visibility of the moon. The moon is usually 3 days invisible, hidden in the rays of the sun. And on the fourth day, the thin lunar crescent you see in the evening on the western horizon. And so this is marking the beginning of the new lunar month. So what is actually happening right now is that the moon is invisible. Today is 8th of October, tomorrow 9th of October, it will also be invisible. What is happening is that the lunar god is descending into the underworld in order to decide on the destinies of the dead. So you can imagine, by knowing what the mythological story behind the descension of the invisibility of the moon is, you will also know what such lunar days would mean for you. And I would say that the 8th and the 9th of October will be most appropriate for doing spiritual work that will enhance your intuition, meditation. These 2 days will not be appropriate to plan new initiatives. They will not be appropriate for any new things. They will not be appropriate also for medical interventions. For the agriculture, for example, to clean the weed from your garden, it's the most appropriate timing while the moon is invisible. In ancient times, people would spend time in the temple to pray, to contemplate, but they would not really do anything significant until the moon is invisible. And then on the 10th of October, we have the first lunar crescent, which you will see easily on the western horizon after sunset. So this was the day to celebrate in antiquity. And this is really important because this will mark, this first lunar visibility will mark how the month will look like for us. So what is happening is, after sunset we see the moon rising in the 13th degree of Libra, and there the moon is meeting the invisible Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter. What is happening in Libra, actually this is sidereal Libra, otherwise the moon will most probably rise in Scorpio if you're following up the tropical zodiac. But what is happening when the moon is rising in Libra? Libra is a sign that is known, of course, for beauty, ruled by Venus, is known for justice, is known for ruling artistic creativity qualities, is known for people who have Libra rising would be designers, would be people engaged in beauty, knowledge. Libra is the moon is rising on the 13th degree, quite near Venus. In a previous video, I explained about the invisibility of Venus and how significant this is for us, how little we can gain during the Venus invisibility in terms of love, in terms of money even, in terms of luck and success. So what is happening is there is an emphasis on this particular sign. So what will happen is that we might really have exactly events in relation to love, to beauty, to our studies. We might need to contemplate, to use our intuition in order to be successful. In terms of mundane astrology, this will for sure have impact on communication because Mercury is there invisible, Venus invisible. So certainly we might be the ruling class, the king might try to mislead us through wrong communication. So stay awake because certainly the communication will suffer from the invisibility of Mercury and Venus together. So this is very important for the first lunar day, and this will be the emphasis of the whole lunar month. We might not be very happy with our love life, with our friends. Financially, we will not probably gain the financial results that we expect. Also, let's not forget that in this particular time, Mars is conjoined Ketu, and you saw how the markets are breaking down, and this happened immediately after Venus became invisible. So what is also important to know is that we are very careful with our investments, and we should not have high expectations in terms of finances, of course. Well, also this Mars and Ketu conjunction, which we noticed the nature disasters, and in previous video I also mentioned that this will certainly have impact on the disasters, and certainly in Asia. So this is how the lunar month is starting. The next lunar day, the second lunar day, the first lunar day, of course, is the most important. This is a day when typically we may do new initiatives, but the case here is a bit different due to all these invisible planets which will not support the new initiatives this particular month. On 11th of October, the moon will be in the last degrees of Libra, meeting Jupiter. This is wonderful. This is wonderful in terms of creativity, in terms of philosophical, high spiritual studies, in terms of doing empathic good deeds, in terms of meditation, enhancing your intuition. But I do not really advise still new initiatives, because the most important planet which would support your finances, Venus, will not be visible, and Mars is still conjunct with Ketu. So this is about 11th of October. On the 12th of October, the moon is entering Scorpio and is passing through sacred degrees of Scorpio. So this will be quite good for those who are chirurgs, those who do natural medics, people who have healing qualities. This would be very, very, very supporting for their work. So this is a day which I do not recommend for surgical intervention, though, but for new beginnings also not. But it will be very beneficial for those who really practice natural healing, who have natural qualities like mediumship, clairvoyance. So this is really a day where they can really enhance their qualities through meditation or practices which they know. Be careful while driving, though. On the 13th of October, the moon passes Antares, a star which is Martian, a powerful star of leadership. So this would be good for your routine work, most probably, but not for new initiatives, as I said, and certainly not for surgical interventions. And very good for any practices related to medical, to intuition, meditation, spiritual activities. This is on the 14th. On the 14th, the moon enters Sagittarius, and in Sagittarius, the moon conjoins Saturn. So this will be good if we have. It's a day when we should have really high moral values, when we should do. Because this is what Saturn requires from us. Sagittarius is a very spiritual sign. So this is a day where we, again, day of spirituality. And actually we cannot do so much more, taking into consideration that Venus is invisible. And in 6 days from now, Jupiter is preparing for his phase of invisibility. I will make another video to explain you what exactly this means. Jupiter becoming invisible. So this is about the 14th. The 14th lunar day is very important. This day was honored in a special, the 5th lunar day, sorry, 14th of October. This day was very much honored in the past. But right now, with this configuration on the sky, we can't do really so much except taking care of ourselves, of our beloved ones, and do spiritual good practices with the white spirit world. 15th of October, very similar situation. Be careful not to get involved in any conflicts. Be careful not to, with traveling as well. Do your routine work just carefully. No surgical interventions. Then 16th of October, the moon is void, of course. Actually, I'm wrong. The moon is not void, of course. The moon is having exact aspect with the sun. This will be good for our routine work, but let's be careful. Let's maintain high moral values because the moon is in Sagittarius and still very near Saturn and Pluto. On the 17th of October, the moon is just conjoining Ketu, the lunar node, and Mars. This can trigger events worldwide which we may not like. This may trigger events not very positive for the financial markets. So, as I said, this month entirely is not positive for the for our finances. So we should do our routine job in the best possible way, without any fears, praying and surrounding ourselves with the wide spirit world. Um, the moon is on a place just between the horns of the Capricorn, where you have a powerful star for those who have clairvoyant qualities. So this will be wonderful for them. They may experience some interesting clairvoyant events, but again, no surgical interventions. Let's be careful on this day. Careful with driving, careful with conflicts. Absolutely the same is valid for the 18th of October. On the 19th of October, the moon is entering Aquarius. This is actually very good again in terms of spirituality, because in Aquarius we will find Fomalhaut, highly spiritual star of the spiritual priest, and again good for spiritual practices, empathy, empathic deeds. You may do financial initiatives on that day, but keep in mind that financially you may not receive the reward you expect. On this day, good for travel, good for good deeds. Again, not yet for surgical interventions. Absolutely the same, I would say, for the 20th of October. The moon is entering the sacred degrees of Aquarius, so even better for spiritual practices. You may get interesting experiences, very, very possibly. And then, interestingly, on the 21st of October, Jupiter is becoming invisible, hiding in the rays of the sun in the second degree of Scorpio. And I will give a detail, as I said, video, especially about this, what this will bring to each one of us. But again, we have a month with 3 invisible planets. So a lot of secrecy will be going on in the world from the ruling class, which will affect people, secrecy in communication, and any sort of secretive actions, which of course are certainly not very positive. And on the 21st of October, the moon is void, of course. This day particularly is not bad, but it's not giving any significant result in whatever we do. When the moon is void, of course, we just should not expect a lot from such lunar day. 22nd, the moon is in Pisces, squared from Saturn, so be careful. Every effort we do will require extra effort because Saturn is the one that is delaying things. So do your routine work, but keep in mind to be very moral, to be moral with your thoughts, deeds, speech. And this way we will be fine in our everyday routine life. New initiatives I don't recommend. Also because the ruler of Pisces is invisible. This is Jupiter, and he may not be very productive, not very helpful. The same is valid also from the 23rd of October, and the moon is in such degrees which are very spiritual, powerful in terms of enhancing intuition, empathy. 24th of October, the moon is in Aries, entering the Athena Palace special degrees in Aries, which are very good, very wide, very decent degrees, we may have this like desire to do lofty, empathic deeds, to be, which is because of these degrees. So all this is good. Um, though this is also the day of the full moon, and here I don't really, here there is a difference because everyone experiences the full moon differently. Some find this period very productive. Others would say that this period is really bad for their emotional status. So you know how the full moon is working on you. In antiquity, people would not do much. They would spend time in the temple, contemplating, praying. So this is about the full moon day. Also, this will have impact on communication, on our friendship and love life, also because of the aspect of Venus, which is retrograde, and also invisible. And you remember I mentioned in the previous video that when Venus is retrograde and invisible together, this has impact very much on the relationships of the people. 25th of October, the moon is already waning. Still, on this day, if really necessary, you can do medical interventions, but with care because the moon is afflicted by Mars. So serious surgeries, I would not recommend. New initiatives, also not. The moon on Friday, 26th of October, will enter Taurus to meet the Pleiades, or the Seven Sisters, as some cultures call them. Pleiades, these are seven sisters, witches with different characters. So these degrees could be very good, again, for spirituality, esoteric deeds, enhancing intuition, not careful with driving, careful with whatever you do, because as I said, they have mixed character. In antiquity, these were the guardians of the god of Mars, and they would be really having bad qualities. So I would say be careful, very careful on this day, in anything you do, in driving, in the way you communicate with people. And then on the 27th of October, the moon is passing Aldebaran, fixed royal star of money and luck. So this will be very good for your routine work, not for new initiatives, because you know Venus is invisible, these invisible planets. So it will be good. You may do with carefully surgical interventions already. Depends, of course, on the organ. So this is a very general thing that I'm saying. This would be valid for, yes, this is valid for the 27th of October. Will be probably good for your financial routine life, but not huge gains I would not expect. And Venus on this day is already preparing to appear heliacally. Venus only in 4 days from now, Venus will become visible. On the 29th of October, 28 and 29, the moon is entering Gemini, passing through the Milky Way, good for spiritual activities again, but is afflicted, is hurt by Saturn opposition, then by Pluto opposition. So in terms of communication, well, do what you need to do, but carefully. Again, taking into account the right moral values that we need in terms of thoughts, speech, deeds, in order to not to be harmed by Saturn. 30th, the moon is really void, of course. Nothing special, just our efforts may not be rewarded. On the 31st of October, the moon is in Cancer, wonderful for spiritual deeds, for empathic deeds, for meditation, great. Be careful while driving. No surgical intervention. Mars is afflicting the moon. 1st of November, The moon is void, of course. So, as such, as and afflicted, as such, I would say, do calm your deeds. Be aware of possible conflicts. Drive carefully on this day. No surgical interventions. And we have already visible Venus, but still retrograde. So maybe here we will have slow recovery of the financial markets, also of our own financial pockets. Maybe our love life will start to get a little bit slowly better. But once again, keep in mind, Venus is still retrograde. It is very good that she will become visible, but she's still retrograde. And then on the 2nd of November, the moon is in Leo. Wonderful for those who do spiritual, especially those who do esoteric practices, astrology, numerology. Great, because moon is passing Hydra, Zosma, the nebula on the 3rd. This is great. Also, the 2 days, 2nd and 3rd of November, are good for medical practices. No new initiatives. The moon is waning, not really very good for new initiatives. 28, the moon, 4th of November, the moon is in Virgo. Well, this is good for communication, for media, but still the ruler of Virgo, Mercury, invisible, badly placed in Scorpio. So I would say do your routine communication work, publishing, but don't expect really the results that you would have. Imagine if Mercury was decently positioned in the sky, visible, and so unafflicted and so on. So on the 4th and on the 5th of November, this is the situation. Medical interventions you may do on both days. New initiatives not. Travel you may. And then 6th November, 7th November, 8th November, we are having the 3 days invisibility of the moon. And as we said, this is nothing bad, just that in the evening you will not see the moon anymore. And what is happening is that the lunar god, Sin, or Nana in the Babylon, Sin in Sumer, is descending into the underworld to do spiritual things, to do esoteric things, to decide on the destinies of the dead. That is why I suggest that we do as less as possible active daily duties. Just contemplate, if possible. Well, this is a working day, so it will not be possible really to stay at home or in the temple like the ancients would do. But on this particular day, do as less as possible really active, risky deeds. Very careful while driving. And wait until the first lunar day, lunar crescent, and this will be on the 9th of November. We will see the first lunar crescent rising in Scorpio. And I will explain you next month what this exactly will bring us, because this is happening in a star very near the star Antares, which is Martian leadership star, and this will produce interesting events for the whole month of from November 9 to December 9. So thank you. I'm Krasi Attasio, Sidereal Babylonian astrologer, and you can subscribe to my channel if you like. Thank you.